This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody. Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Throw the ball against the Saints on 3rd and short.
Yes.
I can't tell if you're making fun of me or you're actually
No,
trying
I'm
to stick
trying
with
to
it.
follow.
I have it on a table here. Do you want to see it?
No, I just want you to keep going.
When
This is when we need a whiteboard on
right.
the show.
When teams throw the ball against the Saints on 3rd and short,
Yes.
they are converting a first down 33% of the time.
That's not good.
When they run the ball against the Saints on 3rd and short, 62% of the time.
That is good. It's funny because, like, not that you don't, I'm not trying to say, like, you don't know any stats, but, like, usually it's me that's, like, bringing the spreadsheet to the podcast.
Well, that's a very tangible stat.
Yeah, that's true. We talked about this earlier. I got a as people could imagine, we got a bunch of stuff on our mind. But we were talking earlier about the Herald story that came today, Alex, with Andrew Callahan and Doug Kyde. A lot of information there. Some of it that I think we could have probably gleaned on our own, right? Like the Patriots have receivers that don't get open and an offensive line that doesn't block anybody and a quarterback that's broken. Like, I think we all knew that, right? But one of the pieces of information, we don't have to get into it, but I knew it would grind your gears, was they mentioned that the Patriots are not at the forefront. I don't know what the way to phrase this.
They said they didn't use
analytics.
So, okay, They said they didn't use analytics. First off, by the way, that rant I had last week, 5 3rd and shorts last week for the Patriots. They threw it 4 times, and they ran that fakakta fake tush push on the other one. So much for the numbers there.
That could have been a touchdown. If Ramondre gets the ball.
Yeah, well, a lot of things could have been.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, it was really well called.
They definitely set it up well. They only ran, like, 30 tush pushes to set it up, which is start the season.
I don't know if I like the name tush push, but, like.
Here's the thing. I don't think and by the way, they ran it when they were down 34-0, so great time to break that out. I don't think the NFL likes the term tush push, so that's why I'm so committed to continue using it.
Okay.
On the Herald story, so you know where I'm at with, like, when I say analytics, the math, I'm talking about
win probability models,
win probability, EPA, CPO, anything that has expected in it, or theoretical, or hypothetical. They brought up in that article, like, next-gen stats, which is
like player tracking data.
Right, a guy running 20 miles an hour, he's running 20 miles an hour. It's very tangible. I have no problem with that. Stuff should be used. That stuff's great.
Yeah.
It's when you get into the hypothetical, theoretical, expected that you just totally lose me, and I think it's nonsense. But the next-gen stat stuff, they absolutely should be using. Every team should be using that. I'm not saying it should be the be-all, end-all, but it's information. It's a tool. It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's a good way of putting it. So that wasn't at the top of my mind. I have a couple of things that are at the top of my mind. I didn't really know. Like, usually I try to set the table, have some, like, an opening take.
Yeah, back when you thought the show was going to start having order to it.
No. It does. It
doesn't have to. It's really okay.
No, it has order. It has order. My OCD makes it so. Here's the thing. I don't know where to go with this, because if you, and I'm saying you as in you the people, you the listeners, if you guys want to call into the show today and ask us big picture questions, who's the next head coach? Who's the next GM? Who's the next quarterback? I understand. I'm fine with that. We'll answer those questions. We'll talk about those things. If you want to listen to how do they fix this season, I'm cool with that too. We can talk about that also. How do they be more competitive this year? If you want them to tank for the number 1 overall pick, fine. If you want them to try to piece this thing together to be better on the field this season and this week against the Raiders, also fine. We're going to give you both. But here's my big opening thing, and this is recent now, and this kind of puts a little bit more direction in my mind, because those two things are so polar opposite. Like, let's talk about next year and the future, or let's talk about this week against the Raiders. It couldn't be more on either side of the thing. Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is apparently, according to, I think, multiple reports, it's safe to say at this point, available and likely to be moved before the NFL trade deadline.
Yeah.
So on some levels, I've gotten this pushback on the X machine already. Why would you give up draft capital to help this team? Why would you let Bill Belichick make any more trades? Why would you make a trade that would make this team better and maybe put you in a spot where instead of the second overall pick in the draft, you're picking 15th again? And like, what's the point in that, right? And my whole thing with all of that is that Jerry Jeudy is somebody that we've both been clamoring for because of his skill set.
He's a good player.
Good player, good route runner, gets open against man coverage, which this team can't do and is in dead last in the league right now in production against man coverage. This is one of the best man coverage beaters in the league, Jerry Jeudy, statistically.
His route running is that we talk about a carrying trait, right?
Yeah.
What makes his ability to separate on a route on his own is his carrying trait. He is top 15 in the league in that regard.
He's a technician.
Yeah.
He's a route running technician. He's got that PhD in route running, and he's pretty good with the ball in his hands too after the catch. So my whole thing with Jerry Jeudy is, in all likelihood, acquiring Jerry Jeudy. Well, let me first say this. You're not trading your first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy.
You're not trading a first-round pick for anybody.
You're not trading. No one's trading a first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy.
You don't think a contender would?
No.
Like the Chiefs?
No.
I could see the Chiefs doing it.
I don't. If they had a first-round pick on the table for Jerry Jeudy, he wouldn't be a Bronco anymore.
I'm saying you get a few weeks. All right, yeah, fair enough.
They're not. No one's trading a first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy. So you're talking at most a second-round pick, a day 2 pick. So with that out of the way, if you're the idea of to me of trading for Jerry Jeudy is a long-term play. It's long-term. He's 24 years old. He's 24. So you give him a contract extension. You trade a mid-round pick for him, third-round pick, second-round pick, whatever it takes. And whether it's Mac Jones throwing him the football in 2024 or it's Michael Penix throwing him the football in 2024, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? Either way, Jerry Jeudy is making the quarterback and the offense better. Period, full stop. He's making them better. That's all that matters. Whether it's Drake May, Michael Penix, Mac Jones, Kyler Murray, whoever's throwing him the ball next year, it makes the team better. I would also mention that this drives me up a wall. People's attachment to non-first round picks drives me up a wall, Alex, because we do this all the time on the show because it's a good bit.
Yeah.
It's the Family Guy mystery box.
Yep.
You could have Jerry Jeudy, or you could draft a receiver in the 3rd round, and he might be as good as Jerry Jeudy.
Right.
So, what is the infatuation with the draft picks? I'm not saying that the Rams do it right, and the Rams say F the picks, and they trade all of them.
There's a happy medium.
There's a happy medium. And no one's sitting here today saying that I would actually say that they shouldn't be trading their 1st or 2nd round pick for Jerry Jeudy.
So I wouldn't trade the 2nd. Now, maybe if it's Jerry Jeudy and a 3rd for like a 2nd, they should not lose any top 100 picks.
I would trade a 3rd for Jerry Jeudy.
Might trade a 3rd. But
I would.
So here's the thing. If we're going to really blow this up and talk about this down the road like that.
Yeah.
The Patriots are not getting the 1st overall pick. That's just not going to happen. I know a lot of people think it is. It's not. The Bears hold the trump card right now because they have their pick and the Panthers pick. So a lot of people are like, oh, they need a tank so they can get Caleb May or whatever. It's not all about tanking in the NFL. You don't need the 2nd overall pick to get the 2nd best player in the draft. And what I mean by that, or you don't need the 2nd worst record, to get the 2nd best player in the draft. It's as much about how you position yourself to move up the board.
Yeah.
And that's why, I'm not as hesitant to part ways with the 3rd round pick. It's it's a 3rd round pick. You're turning into a great player. But, are you going to, if they want to move it in the top 5, take a quarterback, and they're sitting there at 7, is that the pick you're going to need and now you don't have it? But that also goes to another point.
You can trade from future years.
You can trade from future years, but I would add as well. So one, I would try to trade future year picks for Jerry Jeudy. The other thing is, this is where you talk about what are they going to do with some of the guys on the team now that are on expiring contracts.
Yeah.
And if you somebody did this a couple years ago. Like they traded for a guy that was on a long-term deal, long-term, but with Judy, multi-year deal, and then they traded away another player on an expiring contract and got like the equivalent of that pick back. So they essentially, they didn't get a better player. The circumstances were a little different, but like they extended the window.
Yeah.
So if you were to trade like a third for Jerry Jeudy and then trade like one of the expiring players, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Josh Uche, and maybe like a fifth for a third, well, now you still have the same number of third-round picks you always had. Like that would be.
Can I? Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. The real value in those picks to me, and this is a unique situation,
is to trade up.
If they need a quarterback, because you're not talking about trading up like we usually do with them from like 20 to 15.
Right.
We're talking about going from like 7 to 2 or 3, and that's where you do want to be able to position yourself a certain way.
All right, so we're both, I think, in lockstep that we would offer a third-round pick for Jerry Jeudy, and that's the highest we'd go.
I might do like a second for Jerry Jeudy and a third.
Okay,
something like that.
I don't know if the Broncos would do that.
Okay, fair enough.
So let's just call it a third-round pick.
Sure.
Here's the Patriots' last 5 third-round picks.
Oh, you came ready.
Are you ready for this? Oh, I just pulled this up.
Great. Can I hang on? Marte Mapu.
Yeah.
Marcus Jones.
Yep.
All right, so then I got to go back to Mac Jones' draft class. That would be Ronnie Perkins.
Yep.
2020, they had 2 that year, right? 3. Uche was second. Anthony Jennings.
Yep.
Oh, and the 2 tight ends.
Yep.
And Keenan Asiasi, and now where am I? 18?
19.
19?
Yeah.
19, so that's N'Keal Harry draft. That was Chase Winovich third. I think it's Chase Winovich, right? Third round, right?
Chase Winovich.
And then Damian Harris was the 4th round.
No. Third round.
Oh, they were both third-round picks?
And Yadni Kajust.
Okay.
So, to summarize, Marty Mapu, Marcus Jones, Ronnie Perkins, Anthony Jennings, Devin Asiasi, Dalton Keene, Chase Winovich, Damian Harris, Yadni Kajust. Woof. And you guys are worried about giving up a third-round pick for that collection of talent?
Am I allowed to be worried about it in losing an asset to move up in the first round?
No, you're not.
Why?
I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. One, there's a million different ways to split that atom, right?
Okay.
Like you can trade from future years. You can trade 2 fourths instead of a third. Like there's a million different ways to cut up that pie. 2, who's the GM of the team? Because if it's the same guy that's sitting in the chair right now, you and I both know well and good that he ain't trading up in the first round.
Well, he's not taking a quarterback either.
But he's not trading up.
Yeah.
So,
well, no, he's going to hold on to the third because that's where they're going to take the quarterback. That's where they're going to take
the bottom line is that Jerry Jeudy makes your team better now.
Tyler Van Dyke.
He makes your team better in the future, and stop obsessing over the draft picks. Stop. Okay, moving on from that, and you can call in and weigh in on that.
One caveat on all that.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Yes.
There's no caveat.
Yes.
No.
You have to sign him long term.
I know.
You can't let him walk after 2024 because that defeats the entire purpose.
Yes, but that's where I would like to think that Macro, assuming that Macro is still going to be here in 2024, maybe he can sit there and say to Bill, like, come on, like we're giving him the money.
If they make that trade and then let him walk, that's a total mismanagement of assets.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me put that.
So let's. That's the Jerry Jeudy take from me, and from Alex. If you want to call in and disagree, you want to email in and disagree or agree, we can still talk about Jerry Jeudy for the rest of the show. But I have 4 things, Alex. 4 things that I would do to fix the offense right now.
Okay.
And it doesn't include Jerry Jeudy, right? We're not talking about external additions.
Internal moves.
Internal moves. So I'm going to read them off one by one, and then you can tell me your opinion.
All right.
Number 1. Starts up front, right? Offensive line
has to start up front.
Offensive line has to get better.
Yep.
So when the head coach goes on Sunday and Monday and Wednesday, kind of, his whole mantra and the mantra around the team right now in the building is start all over, right? Start all over. Like, just forget about the last 2 weeks.
Great Chris Stapleton song.
No idea who that is.
Yes, you did. I knew what you were doing, and I still let it get to me.
Start all over, right? So in the interest of starting out, like, what does that mean to you? Start all over. I got this question a lot. Like, what's that mean to you? Start all over. To me, what that means is let's go back to the spring and training camp, day one. What was our team? What was our installation? What were the plays that we were running? And that's what we're going to do, right? And in that vein, when it comes to the offensive line, starting all over to me is going back to March, what you thought you had along the offensive line. These were our penciled in 5 starters along the offensive line. So therefore, I think, and I would even go as far to say that it's ridiculous if this isn't the case.
Okay.
From left to right,
Yeah.
Trent Brown, assuming healthy, Cole Strange,
Yeah.
David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, who I think is going to play, Riley Reef.
Is Riley Reef healthy?
Yeah, I think Riley Reef's good.
I don't know. He's been limited. He's
He played last week.
kind of standing off to the side during stretching.
He'll be all right.
He played a little. I think he's healthy enough to play. I don't think he's healthy enough to play 100%. I think you have to rotate him.
Okay, I don't want to get too caught up in like health and
again,
stuff.
why not?
But Riley Reef.
I would still put Riley Reef at guard, Mike Onwenu at tackle, but sure.
It's not going to happen. That's why I didn't like go that way, because it's not going to
You're
happen.
right. It's not going to happen, but I still feel like we have to say it.
All right, I think that if you're truly starting all over,
But
then that's starting all over.
We talk about the best 5. That maybe something changes at left guard, but more or less that's your best 5.
Yes, that's your best 5, and I think one of the few bright spots from that debacle against the Saints was that I thought Riley Reef played okay. I thought Riley Reef looked solid. I thought he looked like, what's the word? Like twitchy almost, like he was moving well, and he was sudden with his movements, and he was able to redirect and stay in front of guys. Had a really, really good one-on-one rep against Brian Breeze, who's the Saints' first-round pick.
Brian Brzee.
Breezy.
Brzee.
Whatever.
What's his name?
First-round pick, and Breezy tried to spin move him, shut it down. I thought he was really good in that game against New Orleans, and he's got to be in your starting lineup. If they don't think he can play tackle anymore because the stuff we saw in the summer, the foot speed, that kind of thing, then maybe he's left guard, right? But he's got to play. He's got to be in the starting 5. That's where I would, if you're going to start all over, like that's starting all over to me. Starting all over and rolling with like the young guys like Antonio Mafi and City. So that's not starting all over. That's not good.
I did think it was interesting to go back to that Herald piece. It doesn't say from a source, but it sounds like it's almost like they're reporting it without really reporting that Cole Strange is facing a challenge for his job from Mafi.
So Mafi's so tough, and we're gonna get to like 3 up, 3 down here in a little bit. Mafi's tough because he was okay against.
Is currently in a battle for his starting. Cole Strange currently in a battle for his starting job with 5th-round rookie Antonio Mafi.
I mean, that's fair. But Mafi was good against Dallas, or I shouldn't say good. He treaded water against Dallas, right? Like I thought that
he wasn't bad.
The film was some progress. He was terrible against New Orleans. He doesn't have the feel and the instincts yet. I think because of the lack of playing time at the position, going back to college, which Belichick talked about last week in his press conference when he was giving him credit for learning. But line movement, stuns, twists, blitzes, things like that, like he doesn't know how to pick them up yet. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. So I still think he's not ready. All right, so that's number 1, though. Start all over on the offensive line. Put the 5 guys out there that not only I think are the best 5 that you have on paper, but as the original penciled in, this is what we were going to go into the season with offensive line before all the injuries and all the other stuff happened. All right, number 2, and I think that this is really important moving forward. Let the kids play at wide receiver. I play them all, and I include Tyquan with the kids, right? Tyquan. I know Pop Douglas probably not going to play in this game on Sunday, but this is just in general. Tyquan, Douglas, Booty should be active. He should play over Juju. If you're not playing Booty over Juju, it's because you paid Juju. That's the only reason. It's the only reason. The only guy out of this receiver room that deserves to keep playing is Kendrick Bourne. Everybody else should be riding the pine for the younger guys. The more explosive options, and also obviously the guys that are going to develop, hopefully, or maybe not. But we'll see.
You include Malik Cunningham?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think that expands beyond the receivers. I understand, maybe with the line it's a little tricky, but I would give Mafi a chance to win that job against Cole Strange. But
I'm not doing it with the because this is in the interest of fixing it.
Okay.
And I think the reason why I say play the kids, and I know I brought up the developmental thing, maybe
you just think they're better.
I think they're better.
Okay. I would say play the kid Marte Mop, who's only played like 20% of the snaps this year.
Yeah.
And some of that is because he's a passing down player and they keep falling in these big holes and teams are running the ball. But like, play him. Play Keon White, another guy that should play. I'm all for playing the kids. But yeah, at wide receiver, they might help you right now.
Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster have given you zilch.
Nothing.
Nada.
I mean,
Terrible.
there was that one ball against the Saints. I mean, and Parker did a good job of getting himself in position to catch it, and he just didn't close his hands. It just went right through his hands, and he didn't make any effort to go up and get it. Or sorry, he made the effort to go up and get it, but he didn't make any effort to actually make the catch once he got up there. And it was like, what are we doing here?
He's one-on-one all the time, and he doesn't win. Right, because teams are begging Mac Jones to throw the ball outside the numbers.
Yeah.
And Parker's one-on-one all the time. He doesn't win. Juju, we know. We don't have to beat a dead horse. Like Juju is been terrible for them.
All right, so
play the youngins.
Bourne, Thornton. For this week, Bourne, Thornton, Booty. Who's lining up where?
I would play Bourne at the Z.
Yeah.
I'd play Booty as a third receiver, and I'd play Tyquan at the X.
Okay. I'd play Tyquan at the X in 12. I would almost play, when you go to 11, I'd kind of put Tyquan in the slot just to get him some free releases.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
maybe it's Bourne at the X, maybe it's Booty. They can kind of just go back and forth between the X and the Z.
I'm not too caught up in where exactly they'll play. I think Bill O'Brien will figure that piece of it out. But
I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah,
because
I don't know
I'm thinking about it for this week.
Tyquan's not the savior, right? We know that. Tyquan's not the savior. But for starters, Parker's giving you zilch.
Right.
Parker is giving you nothing. And I think that there's something to be said for the fact that Tyquan can at least run through a defense. It might happen. He might just run through the defense.
I think you're looking for, can he be a contributor? Maybe he's not a coverage dictator, but if he can show you enough that he can be your third or fourth receiver, does that help them this year? I don't know, but we've talked about what next year is going to look like. Parker and Juju really the only receivers under contract. Are they still going to be here?
Yeah.
And then Thornton, and that's it.
And the
rookies. Bourne's contract's up, right? So how many receivers do you have to go get next year? If you know Thornton can at least be a depth guy, it's not great for the 50th overall pick, but hey, it's something.
Yeah.
And it's one less guy you have to add.
And even if he can also just be, I'm not as concerned with Tyquan with volume as I am with actual impact of the spacing and the ability to threaten a safety, to keep the safety over the top, and how it opens up the middle of the field maybe a little bit just by having somebody on the outside that can actually run by somebody one-on-one. It's not I don't expect, because of what we've seen, for Tyquan to ever develop into a high volume producer, but I also don't need him to do that necessarily. Right. I just need him to be a threat out on the football field. So the offensive line configuration, go back to the March offensive line configuration, play the kids. I also just would say quickly about Booty. I saw enough from Booty in the summer to think at this point, when it comes to the quick hitters, the slants, the screens off RPOs, all this stuff that they're trying to feed to Juju, I just think Booty's a more explosive player at this
point. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think he's better suited to catch some of those passes if that's what you're still going to do.
All right.
So those are my two things so far. Number 3. I think Hunter Henry is your only consistent option, probably your best option at this point.
Kendrick Bourne's kind of in there, but
I think Kendrick Bourne is more there's more boom to his game, but there's not as much consistency to his game. Hunter, I believe that everything in the passing game needs to funnel through Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
Everything.
He's there. I mean, he needs to. I want to say he needs to be in the Julian Edelman role, not X's and O's wise,
he needs
but
to be the chain mover.
He needs to be 10 to 12 targets a game.
Yeah, and he needs to be the chain mover. When it's third down, that first third down of the game, last week against the Saints. The route that Mac threw to him is really just like clearing it out. Like he's not even really the first read in the progression necessarily. It's a clear out route. He's running through the middle of the field to take the linebacker and the safety out of the window for the crosser to Devontae Parker. I don't want him clearing out. I want the ball going to Hunter Henry. Right? So Hunter Henry, I think, needs to be whatever way you want to call it, like the number one read in the progression. The concept needs to be set up for Hunter Henry. Like he's got to be your go-to volume guy in this offense because the receivers, I think Kendrick Bourne's like I just said, a good big play guy, and I don't mean like he's going to hit a 70-yard touchdown, but you catch my drift. Like he's one of those types of guys that can make some high impact plays, but not necessarily high volume plays. The volume pass catcher in this offense for you is Hunter Henry. So he needs to be the third down chain mover. He needs to be the guy that you set up to win man to man. Like that's the guy that I'm funneling the offense through right now. So that's number 3. Number 4, last one here. And this one I cannot stress enough is something that I just can't figure out about this entire team. Ty Montgomery needs to be the third down back.
Yes.
They need Ty Montgomery to be the third down back. I don't understand why they don't want to do this. I don't understand why he's playing wide receiver. I don't get any of the usage with Ty Montgomery to this point. He has shown in last summer and in the opening week of that season last year and this summer that he's a decent third down back. And I need to see him in that role. I think that this offense is starving for the check downs, the dump offs into the flats, the one-on-ones against the linebacker and having somebody that can actually get open. And I don't think Zeke and Ramondre are getting the job done in that sense. I think that they take too long to get into their routes. I think that Mac doesn't know if they're on an option. Are they breaking in? Are they breaking out? And he's waiting. He's holding the ball a lot, trying to throw the football to them, waiting for them to get out of the backfield, waiting for their route to declare. Just too much time taken. Ty Montgomery is got to be the third down back. So those are the 4 things that I would do.
Yeah, you know where I'm at with Montgomery. I agree with you on that. I mean, he had that bad drop this week, but that's not. You can't be sending Ty Montgomery on go balls.
Yeah, well, as a crosser, but he's playing wide receiver.
And again, so I would add a couple things to that. One, here we go again. You want to guess where I'm going with this?
No, just
get in I formation or single back and just hand the ball off like that. No more fake tush push. No more running out of shotgun. No more. Remember like Pop Warner? Remember 22 dive? Yeah. 2 back, 2. I know that's not how plays are called at this level, but like 22. Can I get a 22 dive?
Okay.
Right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Run the ball like that. That's really the only thing I'd add. They're not going to be able to win games throwing the ball 40 times a game. They need some sort of semblance of a running game, and the running game, the way it's constructed right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think that in a lot of ways, like I kind of put that all together with the offensive line take.
Okay,
that it's all kind of goes together. I do think that based off of some of the things that I've talked to some of the players about this week. I asked a couple guys. All right, well, Bill O'Brien said that there's going to be tweaks. He didn't say that there's going to be like wholesale changes, but he said that there's going to be tweaks. And I think some of the things that they are going to try to tweak is less tosses, less outside zone, like less trying to hit the outside and just letting these big guys like Onwenu, Vidarian Lowe, Trent Brown, like just fire off the ball. If it's Mafia at guard, like just fire off the ball, right? Like to your point, it's not as much of the side to side, not as much as the movement block, but just gap and just run ahead, right? Like that's sort of going to be sort of the goal, I think, more this week. And the Raiders defense, like you should be able to run the ball a little bit on that interior D line. So I'm with you on that. But those are the things that I would try to do. Now, there's no quick fixes. They have a personnel issue. They have a talent issue on this team. We all know that.
Yeah.
So it's not going to that's not going to fix itself overnight. But if you start to think about some of the things that the team can do to make it better, I think that's where you have to start. It's obviously, like I said, it's not going to be the number one scoring offense in the league the rest of the way just because you make Ty Montgomery the third down back.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
We are all aware of that. But in terms of what they can do on the micro level to try to make this at least look like an NFL offense, those are some of the places that I would start. Big picture wise, really quickly before we open the phones, I think my one thing with the big picture on this team, I don't know if you agree with this, Alex. I was walking, and I think we walked out together on Sunday after the game.
Yeah.
And I fully admit, I said this yesterday, I think on Playbook, like I was like, fire everybody, right? Like fire everybody. But at the same time, I do think that we need to take a step back and take a deep breath. And I think that this is one thing, I'm not saying like because they're going to turn the season around and make the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying. But I think this is one thing that, separates an owner like Mr. Kraft with people that cover the team like us and fans, right? Is that the knee-jerk reaction to fire Bill on Monday morning because they lost 34-0, that didn't happen because you got to see the forest through the trees, right? You can't just react so knee-jerk to everything. I would just say that at this point, we all know, I think where I'm leaning. I think I know where you're leaning, but I won't speak for you in terms of the future of the team and the head coach. I am certainly leaning towards a full reset. But with that being said, I do want to see the entire body of work. I don't think that in-season firing is the right way to go about this. But I'm leaning towards that being the end outcome here. Don't get me wrong. But let's see what it looks like, in January, right? Let's give it a breath and let's see what it looks like. If it still looks like a train wreck, then he's gone. Like that's.
Well, I mean, how many games are you going to lose by 30 consecutively, right? That's kind of what it comes down to. Can they be better this week? And then what happens when you get to Buffalo and Miami? No, it's you got to see the whole picture. Definitely. I don't know that there needs to be like a rush to make a change. There's maybe a little inherent value if you wanted to see somebody on your staff as an interim, you have that. But I don't know that it was so much a gut reaction to that game as it was the last 2 weeks. What makes it tough for me, and I'm the guy that's the optimist. I'm the guy that's always sitting here, you make fun of me for being too positive.
Sure.
It would be one thing if the issues, as weird as this sounds, if the issues were things we didn't expect, I would almost feel better.
Yeah.
Like, let's say instead of, the offense being bad and the defense looking pretty good, let's say that they were losing all these games like 60-50.
Right.
I'd feel better because I'd be like, all right, that's really weird, but hey, we know this defense can do it, and they'll probably turn it around and look at this, look at what the offense is doing. We've been saying since March, Evan.
Yeah.
The offensive line is going to do this team in.
Right.
And what has happened? The offensive line has done this team in. So, to me, all they've done to this point is confirm priors, and that's where I think it's a little. Again,
totally
you
fair.
want to see the forest for the trees, but at this point,
I want to see the full picture.
Maybe we're not looking at the whole forest.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of trees in front of us right now,
and that's every chance I get, I have said this is not an overnight issue, right? No. Like this isn't just about 2 games. This isn't just about some a bad, was it now like 11-day stretch or something like that. This has been brewing and this has been building, and in the personnel side of things particularly is problematic. They're right now they're not a very good talent evaluating team. They don't evaluate talent very well. They have really not made a single good offensive move on this team in like 5 years.
Yeah, this has been my take. This has been my take. What was the last good offensive personnel move the Patriots made? And we both liked Zeke. Yeah. But that was like good for the situation. I was like, all right, the situation is what it is. You made the right move.
The only good move that they have made in the last 5 years, and I know it hasn't turned out good.
Yeah.
But it was drafting Mac was the right move at the time.
So I would argue that they've made one good move since.
Yeah.
And it was about 40 hours later when they drafted Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, I mean, like drafting Christian Gonzalez was a good pick too.
I said offensive.
Okay.
Offensive. You look at what they've done since, and I don't even know that. Like, some of it is misidentifying talent, but some of it's also just a lack of trying. When's the last time they put and I define premium asset as a top 50 pick or in free agency making a player 5 highest paid at their position in the league?
Yeah.
When's the last time they put a premium asset in a tackle position?
Yeah.
It's Isaiah Wynn.
This is something that I also think that like we've talked about, but it just to echo your point, there was a time in place in Bill Belichick's tenure with the Patriots where they always used to be a step ahead of these things.
Yeah.
At tackle, obviously the one that we always talk about is Matt Light to Nate Solder.
Right.
They drafted Nate Solder a year before Matt Light retired. Nate Solder, I think he played some right tackle his rookie year and some tight end.
Because Vollmer got hurt.
Sixth offensive line tight end thing. But really, he was a backup. Vollmer was at right tackle. Matt Light was at left tackle. Those guys were entrenched starters. They were good players for the Patriots. But they still drafted Nate Solder in the first round because they knew Matt Light was going to retire.
Or even at a less impact position, they went, I mean, it was seamless. Kevin Falk to Shane Vereen to Danny Woodhead to James White.
They could really use Danny Woodhead.
And I don't even know. And James White was an important player for this offense, and that's an important role. It's not like they tried to draft his replacement or sign his replacement and whiffed. What was the plan?
Yeah.
Was it Ty Montgomery? I don't think it was because they'd be playing him there.
Yeah. So
was it Pierre Strong? Guy caught 19 passes in college.
Yeah.
Again, it goes to that point where they haven't invested at all at tackle. They made one investment at wide receiver. It missed, but they made one. What do you think it's going to look like? And you look at the guys they've had leave. How many of these big name players that left? You can't find even the attempt, the one for one to replace. A lot of them, you can't even find the attempt.
Yeah. I think we harp a lot on the drafting, but their pro personnel evaluation on offense has been terrible.
No, it's the whole thing. Again, it's like I said, premium asset. There's such a thing as a premium asset at wide receiver. And people will talk about, people will talk about Hunter Henry. Well, that was technically before Mac, but I would say that was a good move. People will bring up Devontae Parker. He's not. I don't think he's in the top 20 highest paid receivers in football right now.
No.
Nelson Aguilar was like the 25th highest paid receiver when they signed him. People talked about that. Oh, they gave Nelson Aguilar a big contract. That's not a big contract for a wide receiver in today's game.
Right.
Juju Smith-Schuster's the 36th highest paid wide receiver in football. Those are not premium assets.
They're also just bad evaluations of the player. I'm trying not to pile on them too much about the Jacoby for Juju thing because I was wrong about that too. But I was wrong about it sitting in this chair in this studio talking to you about it. I'm not running the football team, right? Right. And I'm not saying that makes me it's better, but it is kind of better, right? You're supposed to know more than me.
They're supposed to prove us wrong.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be here, the media loudmouth, saying what we think, and everybody in the comments, who are these guys? Leave it to the professionals. And then they do the right thing, and everybody rips us on Twitter.
Right.
That's the natural order.
So they had all the information. I had about probably set, and I'm not exonerating myself. I'm just saying they should have been right and I should have been wrong, and they were wrong too. That's a problem. Jonnu Smith is having a much better year in Atlanta. So you could talk about that being a usage thing, but I think that's part of GMing, right? Is knowing how you're going to use a player.
I always say this. You got to have, whether you're drafting a player, whether you're signing a player, you need to have outside, maybe day 3 guys you're just drafting for potential, whatever. But whether you're going to draft a player, whether you're going to sign a player, with a premium asset, what is the plan? We talk about this a lot. People will call in and say, I like so-and-so prospect. We did this with Quentin Johnston, right? People, and he's been good in L.A. Yeah, he's been fine in L.A. There are people who called in and were like, yeah, we like Quentin Johnston. We sat here and said, yeah, he's a good player, but is he going to play? What is the path to him making them a better team? And there were other good players with more clear of a path. It does felt like at times they've added guys just to add them. And Jonnu Smith, N'Keal Harry, there's some guys on defense as well that it's Jalen Mills, Juwan Williams. What was the plan there?
Yeah.
Or were you just adding the player to add him?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. It's all of it. I think we harp on the draft, and this isn't about my take earlier about Jerry Jeudy, but I think we harp a lot on the draft picks because the drafting has been bad outside of a few isolated instances. Maybe more recently, it's been a little bit better than it was in, let's say, 16 to 18, but the 2022 draft is not better than anything. Right?
That brings it right. 21 was good. This year's looks good.
Yeah, this year looks okay. I mean, Christian Gonzalez looked great.
Christian Gonzalez looks great. They'll hit on one of Mapu and White. I think the jury's still out, but there's enough with each one that I think one of those guys
so
pulls
I think
through.
they might both like technically hit, but are either one of them an impact player?
Yeah, I think you've seen flashes from the.
I think both of those guys are role players in a defense that knows how to use role players. Right? Like I'm not saying that as like a horrible thing.
You just read off all the third-round picks the last few years. I'll take it if they get role players from those picks, and then DeMario Douglas might be something. So it's like I do think there's a misconception that a good draft means like all the players are 6 of 7, 5 of 7. Sure. If 50% of your players become like solid contributors from a draft, you always want to hit on your first. You generally have 2 day 3 picks. You want to hit you want to hit on 2 of those 3.
Yeah.
And then 1 or 2 on day 3.
Yeah.
If about half your draft class becomes contributing players, you had a solid draft. You do better, but you had a solid draft. I think that they hit on their first round pick. I feel there's a decent chance one of those 2 day 2 guys turns into something. And then they have DeMario Douglas, and it's like, all right, if one more of those day 3 guys comes along, maybe Antonio Mafi's a guy.
Yeah.
All right, that's just fine. You're not, it's not going to go up in the Hall of Fame, but that's a fine draft.
Mafi kills me, and I didn't know when I was going to do this, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for 3 down. Okay. But I think the biggest thing is it's been pro personnel and it's been on a college scouting level too. And I think sometimes we even don't call both things out. And I really feel like it's been on a pro level also. All right, let's get to the calls, and then we'll do 3 up, 3 down from this last game against the Saints. Brandon is in Oregon. Brandon, if you're still there.
Nope.
I doubted that one. Cousin Patty. What's up, Cousin Patty?
I'm still hanging on.
Yes.
Yes.
Evan, I don't want this to come off as like being a jerk, but the idea that I brought up on PU, like I had no idea. Like that's why I asked the question. That's why I had the idea. Like I didn't know they were still running McVay's team.
Oh no, no, you're good.
No, I'm glad he cleared it up because I'm like, all right, well I guess that makes sense. It still looks like crap. So here's my idea. I would, what do you guys think about this? Love the idea of trading for Jerry Jeudy. And, we're going to have all this friggin' money to spend in the offseason. Go get T. Higgins and draft, I don't know how to say his name, Fashanu or
Olu Fashanu.
And, just write it out with Mac for at least next year. I don't know who's coming up in 2025. Do you think that's a better idea than possibly taking another quarterback like a Drake May? I agree. I don't think we're going to get Caleb Williams, but then you're sort of throwing them to the wolves. Basically our whole line, minus Cole Strange, and all the guys that we drafted, all the guards and Jake Andrews that we drafted are off the team next year.
Yeah, it's a good question, Patty, and thanks for the call. It's a good question about what's the best way forward. Is it going back in the quarterback carousel in the draft and drafting one of the quarterbacks, or is it continuing to build the offensive personnel so that either Mac works or 2 years from now, a year from now, you get the quarterback and just drop him in and hit the ground running? They have so many holes on offense that it's a fair question to ask if it's better to just start drafting offensive players that aren't quarterbacks, because no quarterback is going to succeed if you just drop them into this mess right now. But my contention to that is, and this is the one time that I might agree with you on this, I don't know what the quarterback classes in 2025 and beyond are going to look like. I do know that there's a couple quarterbacks in this class that I really like. So if you really like a quarterback in this class and you can upgrade that position, I'm of the thought that you have to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can hear the other side of it of drafting. Was it Joe Alt, right? Is the other tackle? Yeah. The guy he said.
Olu Fashanu, Penn State. You're gonna love him.
Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're that high up, like
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers. I can understand that line of thinking, and maybe we get to that point I said earlier of wanting to see the whole picture. If Bill O'Brien has Mac Jones playing better football in the second half of the season and the arrow starts to point back upward for Mac, I don't think he's ever going to develop into anything like special at the position, but maybe he's a better bridge option for the time being as you draft your left tackle stud or your receiver stud or whatever.
Yeah, I just, the other thing you have to consider here is the whole value of that rookie quarterback contract.
Yeah.
And the clock's essentially run out on that for Mac Jones. Next
Right.
year, they have the 5th-year option, but next year is really his last year under contract. You have a chance to reset that thing entirely if you take a quarterback this year. And if it wasn't such a strong quarterback class, I might say, Joe Alt, Fashanu, whatever. But you're going to have a shot, I think, at a potentially franchise guy as long as you're picking in the top 15. And I used to be the one that was like, if you don't get the guy. Remember, you really wanted, was it Davis Mills or Kellen Mond?
I'd like to Kellen Mond a little bit.
The Mac Jones year where you were like, just, wait till the second.
I didn't say that. I said if I had to take any of the day 2 guys, like the day 2, 3 guys.
Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna
Mond.
kind of give myself the opposite of victory lap here too, because you wanted that guy, and I said no. At that point, just wait till next year. Next year looks like a really good class too. You remember the guy who I was talking about? It was Phil Dracovic, who's now a tight end. So, look,
you did like Phil
I did like Phil Dracovic, and then BC ruined him.
Going around this city, apparently.
Right, exactly. Maybe next year's class ends up being good. I personally believe Shadur Sanders is going to go back to school.
I think that's the only guy that I can tell you is going to be in next year's class right now.
Right, so Shadur Sanders is going to go 1-1. So you're going to have to be the worst team in the league. And if you're picking Joe Alt, if you add Marvin Harrison, those guys are going to win you games.
Yeah.
I look at the rest of that class, the guys who are projected first-round picks right now. Cade Klubnik, I don't think this is very updated because Clemson's offense has not been good. He does not look like the typical Clemson quarterback. Drew Aller, did you see the press conference with James Franklin about Drew Aller the other day where the reporter asked, have you ever told him to just throw it deep just to do it?
Yeah.
Drew Aller right now you're drafting Mac Jones again if you draft Drew Aller. The only other quarterback supposed to go in the first round next year is a guy named Connor Weigman from Texas A&M, who's not even a starter there yet. And then you get like Ty Simpson, who hasn't been good.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
If you have a chance to draft a franchise quarterback with your quarterback who at best has been up and down entering the final year of his rookie deal, I think you have to do it. It's just too important of a position.
So let me ask you the important question, because this is the money question that we're going to get starting in January. We're going to get this
sounds like
question
you're asking it me now
5,000 times.
Yeah.
Who is the Jalen Hurts of the 2024 class?
Okay, so you're not even asking me about the first round. Who is the Jalen Hurts?
Because let me preface it. If you're going, this is the Carson Wentz year. The Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts going into Carson Wentz's 4th year. They gave Carson Wentz the 4th year to see if it was going to be good or not. It wasn't. That's when they pivoted to Jalen Hurts. So everybody that called us last year in last draft cycle about the kid from Tennessee,
Hendon Hooker,
and calling him the next Jalen Hurts and all this stuff, I kept on saying you're a year too early.
Right.
You're a year too early. We're here now. So is there, I know J.J. McCarthy is like the Mac Jones.
I have no interest in J.J. McCarthy. I have zero interest in him.
Yeah, so is there a guy that has the tools but maybe needs to be put together?
Okay, so can I give you a couple names?
Yeah.
I have to give you a couple names here.
Yeah.
A guy a lot of people like is Riley Leonard from Duke.
Oh, yeah, I do like him. I like his moxie, his makeup.
He's got the makeup. He runs really well. He is not remotely a passer right now.
Yeah.
And he just suffered a pretty serious ankle injury.
Okay.
So
that
there's some wonders about him.
That sounds right up the Patriots.
I like KJ Jefferson from Arkansas.
Me too.
Big dude.
Yeah.
Big guy,
Big arm.
cannon arm, plays with a ton of confidence, can run the football. He's kind of got that, and I use this comp very, very loosely.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of that Cam Newton thing where he's like, I can throw it past you. I can run through you. Now, his decision-making, that needs to build up, both as a runner and a passer. He's a little too loose with the football right now. The confidence may be a little too much, but I like him. Joe Milton.
From Tennessee. Yeah, big arm.
I am very interested for you to actually watch and break down Joe Milton.
So I watched like a little bit of him because he would come in for Hooker sometimes last year because they're blowing teams out. And he would also come in from Hooker for hook on Hail Marys because he had a bigger arm.
Here's the thing about Joe Milton. If you need somebody to throw the football 80 yards, Joe Milton can throw the football
from
80 yards. Right.
Yeah.
If you need somebody to throw a 5-yard slant, Joe Milton can throw the football 80 yards. Like, that's just kind of – there's one play. I think it might have been in their spring game. I can't remember where. They're at, like, the 5-yard line, and he's trying to hit a crosser along the end line, like the back of the end zone, and he throws the ball like four rows into the stands, which is, like, impressive. But not really helpful.
So you're telling me he's like in his pro day, he's
pro day. They're gonna love. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Remember how last year I said Anthony Richardson makes Josh Allen looks like he plays under control?
Yeah.
Joe Milton is the next evolution of that.
Oh, God.
Okay.
But
Joe Milton makes Josh Allen look like Chad Pennington.
In Joe Milton's defense, that is kind of what we're talking about, though, right?
So again, we're talking about the guy who just raw. Can you build him up? That's maybe Joe Milton. I've got two more for you.
Okay, quickly.
One is Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Grayson McCall's been in college for a while, and at
I was
one
gonna
point,
say, like, is he 30 yet? Like,
I think he's like 24.
At what point are we gonna go to the NFL?
So Grayson McCall, people thought he'd be a first-round pick at one point, and then a bunch of quarterbacks in this class kind of came out of nowhere. He's 22. He'll be 23 in December. If you're somebody who thinks maybe Zach Wilson, that makeup is what you want, and he just got butchered by the Jets or the spoiled rich kid thing did him in, Grayson McCall moves around really well, throws a really pretty ball. You're going to wonder about the jump in level of competition and consistency. In the last one, and this one's really interesting, you talked before about Riley Leonard being up the Patriots' alley.
Yeah.
If it's still this regime, because this is a trend with them, DJ Uiagalelei is the quarterback.
Clemson guy?
So he was.
Yeah.
He was the number one recruit in the country coming out in class of 2019. Not number one quarterback, number one recruit. And it was supposed to be, they had Deshaun Watson, they had Trevor Lawrence. This was the next guy.
Right.
Big dude, 6'4", I think he's 250. Yeah, 6'4", 250. Can throw the ball around the yard. Electric.
It's October, Matt, and we're doing this. October.
They never figured him out.
Yeah.
Dabo Sweeney, shocker, couldn't figure him out. And I was ready to write him off.
You hate him.
He has gone to Oregon State this year, and that I know you don't like Pac-12. Pac-12's no joke this year.
Beavers.
He has been awesome. Threw 5 touchdowns last week, beat Utah.
All right.
This is the Patriots thing, right? Former high school recruit, maybe got misused in college.
Hopefully we're not doing this again next year. This is the Patriots thing. We're going to draft this guy who stinks. Yeah.
But, high-ranked high school recruit, maybe didn't get figured out. Uiagalelei's been really good this year. And you're the guy that's clamoring for that modern quarterback. He can run it. He can throw it. He can process at the line, all of it. This is who he was supposed to be, and it just never clicked for him at Clemson. It's clicking for him now. He's going to rise up draft boards. He's going to be a guy that probably ends up in that day 2, maybe early day 3 conversation that people look at and say, if he goes to the right, and this was Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
If he goes to the right situation with the right coaching staff, the talent is certainly there, not just for him to be a starter, but to be a guy that can win games. It's just how much did Clemson set him back?
All right. I like that. It's depressing that we're talking about that on October 12th.
You're going to be a big DJ Uiagalelei guy. I'm calling that right now.
That's where we're at. I just really quickly on the quarterbacks, because I have not watched them as extensively as you just rattled off like 17.
You got to watch this week.
But the one...
So let me just put... It's still early. Still a lot of ball to be played, so that can all change.
The one guy that I really, really like, and this is not like a mid-round guy, because I'm not that deep.
Yeah.
I love Drake May.
Oh, Evan likes the second best prospect in the draft. No way.
I really like Drake May. And when I watch Drake May, my comp right now is Justin Herbert.
Yeah, you're not the only one that says that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, that's kind of...
I don't pay attention.
So, who is it? One of the big draft guys is like, he's halfway between Justin Herbert and Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think he's more controlled than Josh Allen, so maybe that's where we're getting that from.
I definitely think he's closer to Herbert. I'm starting to come around on him. Like, my thing with quarterbacks, with first-round quarterbacks, again, it's that carrying trait thing. Yeah. What does he do that nobody else in the class does? Drake May is kind of in this weird spot where even I think when you take Caleb Williams out of it because he's a unicorn, I don't know that any single one of Drake May's traits are the best in this class, but every single one might be the second best in this class. Yeah. And usually that's the guy that I'm like, but he's just so well-rounded that I'm starting to come around to it where I'm like,
polished.
Okay, yeah, like I see it.
He's got confidence, poise, polish. Like he just looks, he knows that he can play the position. He knows what the position entails. And I think one of the things that I watched him a lot last year because of some of their skill players and stuff
Josh
they
Downs.
had. That was who it was. He's got some of that off-platform moxie too, right? Like he can move around and throw off-platform. He can throw a little sidearm. He can flick the wrist sort of thing. I think he's got a lot of just throw-making ability. Like he's just a quarterback. And it's not like we're trying to make an athlete into a quarterback. It's not like we're trying to do what they try to do with Mac, where you're trying to take the intangibles and turn that into an NFL quarterback. Like you said, this guy's extremely well-rounded.
So it's, everybody wants to point to Mitchell Trubisky and
Nothing
Sam
like
Howell.
those guys.
And I was doing that. I was doing that a couple months ago because I was not super impressed with him last year as a freshman.
Yeah.
Redshirt freshman. I think people were just talking about projection and not what he was doing, and you're seeing that growth now. And he's
fun player.
I can't sit here and tell you.
I know it's Syracuse. I know it's Syracuse.
I don't hype
okay,
him up
but I'm
because of
just
Syracuse.
saying. But I'm saying that I don't hype him up in terms of like actually the end result of the play, but like knowing where to go with the ball. He's just. I think he's got something. All right. I don't want to spend too much
they're
time
gonna.
on,
let me just say
we're
this.
gonna have plenty of time.
They're gonna play Duke in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
That Duke, and this is to the Riley Leonard people. Like, oh look, he made Duke relevant.
Yeah.
That Duke offense is fine. They're fine. That Duke defense might be one of the 10 best in college football right now. That Duke. This is what you do. So for people, including you, who want to learn about these quarterbacks here,
teach me.
This is what
Yoda.
you do. You find the games where they're actually fit, like
We just
Washington,
spent 20
Oregon this
minutes
year.
Talking about quarterbacks in the draft. next year.
Drake May against Duke is going to be very tough.
All right, let's clear the phone lines and then let's talk about the actual Patriots team. All right, Jeff is in Maine. What's up, Jeff?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
So you can twist my arm into the Jerry Jeudy take. I don't mind taking him for the future. There's a part of me that kind of just wants to let this team die in peace, especially the offensive line. Use what you got. I don't think we need to trade for any defensive players or anything like that. We've got plenty of talent coming back. That's my take on the roster. And then, you guys know Great Value, the Walmart brand?
Yes.
All right. So I don't remember how we used him, but assuming that Bill O'Brien uses Tyquan like Great Value Will Fuller, what would that usage look like based on, whatever film from Houston you watched to scout what Bill O'Brien used to do during the offseason? I'll take it off the air. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. I actually wrote about this in the offseason because, what else are we going to freaking write about? So I wrote about this in the offseason, and I went back and watched Will Fuller and Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams at Alabama with Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, and Will Fuller in Houston with Bill O'Brien as the head coach / offensive guy. I think with Will Fuller, what you saw, you did see a lot of verticals with Will Fuller, right? A lot of go balls, a lot of just verticals down the field. He used them a lot, though, and this is what I'm looking forward to with Tyquan. And I think, Alex, you had mentioned this a little bit at the beginning of the show. He used him a lot out of stack alignments, right? So 2 receiver stacks. So you have the point man on the line of scrimmage. The idea is that point man is going to run off the ball and he's going to take the contact, right? He's going to get off the line. He's going to create a little bit of pocket of space underneath him for the receiver to get off the line without a jam, right? So get a free release at the line of scrimmage. And then Will Fuller is so fast that he was able to then just make things happen. With Tyquan, I feel a similar way, and why I'm taking the cheese per usual on a receiver. Shocker. With Tyquan, I feel like that's similar, where I think that Bill O'Brien is going to find ways to get him off the line of scrimmage, whether it's playing him out of the slot, which is what I think that you mentioned earlier, which is one way, motion him, right? Like running him into the route like they do with Tyreek Hill in Miami, or running him out of bunches or stacks where teams have to pick him up down the field instead of jamming him at the line of scrimmage. I think last year, and I'm not trying to go down the road of let's pick on Matty P, but last year they played him a lot at the X. They played him a lot on the line of scrimmage, and so he saw a lot of press man. And at his size, he just isn't big enough to get off of the press man coverage at this level. So what you have to do is you have to get him off the line of scrimmage. And I think that's why I was bullish in the spring, and you all made fun of me because of the one practice that I saw from Tyquan, and I was already all in on it. The reason why is because I saw a plan being hatched of he's 180 pounds soaking wet. So we're not going to just isolate him against man coverage on the outside and expect him to win one-on-one. We're going to find creative ways to get him open. And I think that's what Bill O'Brien's going to do.
Yeah.
But you can go back on Patriots.com if you search like Fuller, Jameson Williams, my name on Patriots.com. You should probably be able to find that. I remember writing about it. All right, John is in Louisiana. What's up, John?
Hey, what's up? Y'all hear me good?
Hey. Yes.
All right, y'all were just talking about it with the moving on with Mac and drafting Drake May. The reason why I was thinking about it is you know exactly what you have in Mac, so why not just build around him? I know he's having a rough year, but we know what we got in him. Just build around him. Like, why not just go that route?
Yeah, that's a fair take, and thanks for the call, John. It's a fair take, and the caller before talked about, well, why don't we use the pick on a tackle or a receiver and continue to build with Mac. I think the problem is that you might know what you have with Mac, and that is that he ain't it, right? So,
or I think it's even beyond that. They had their chance to build around Mac.
Yeah.
It was the last 2 years,
yeah.
and they didn't do it. And it's a lot harder to build around. So then what?
Right.
You build around him this year. He's on an expiring contract. Are you going to re-sign him? Are you going to risk losing him? And then, what if the next year... Again, that 2021 class we talked about, what if they missed? The next year, Kenny Pickett was the only first-round pick in that class.
Yeah.
So then you're going to build this whole thing around Kenny Pickett?
Yeah.
Who also probably isn't it? Yeah, I just... regardless of Mac, the clock's run out. The clock's run out to build around him because you're losing that rookie contract. You kind of have to reset that.
I also... We talked about, and I talked about, like, this was the year that I wanted to find out about Mac. Right. And I understand that we can have excuses. Offensive line has been horrible. The receivers are also mid or limited or whatever you want to call it. And Bill O'Brien hasn't come in and waved the magic wand and fixed all of these issues, right? So you have all the excuses. I think Dan Orlovsky said New England is currently the hardest team in the league to play quarterback for.
That's probably right.
It's close. Carolina's pretty bad too.
All right, yeah.
But regardless, it's probably pretty close. They're bottom 5. Let me put
so the only team where it's worse is the only team that's yet to win a game yet this year.
Carolina, and then I tend to say no to the Giants just because I love Dable, but the Giants' offensive line is a train wreck.
Yeah.
So maybe the Giants are up there as well. But regardless of all of that, I still think that you have seen you can isolate the quarterback play enough that you can see where the warts are in Mac Jones's game. And I think both of us, regardless of how, like the nature versus nurture argument of how we got here with Mac Jones, I'm not sold. This is as down on Mac Jones as I've probably been since they drafted him. Like this is, in terms of my confidence level, that you can build around Mac Jones and be not just a productive offense, but a winning football team with Mac Jones as your quarterback. This is probably as down on him as a player as I've been. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm down on the whole situation. It's not even just him as a player. Again, I go back to that thing where even if you did want to give him another year, unless you're overhauling the coaching staff in the front office, where's the belief that that's what's going to happen? Because last year we all sat here and said, we know they haven't really invested on offense before, but it's as clear as day this year that they have to do it, and they didn't do it. And even if you move on and it's somebody else who is willing to commit to it, then what happens? Yeah. Then he plays the 4th year. Are you picking up his option? All right, that's 2 years, and then what? Are you extending him? What if not? What if he's still not good? The window to figure it out were years 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And they didn't use those years to figure it out.
So do you feel like you have a definitive, like in terms of like, I just said we're going to see the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
But right now, this second, do you feel like you have enough information to figure that out?
No, I'm close. No, because if you're going to tell me that there's going to be another coaching staff in here next year, another GM, then maybe there's an argument for it. But short of anything spectacular, I feel like they're just at the point where the timeline for rebuild, and I actually talked to somebody who works not anymore, but used to work in NFL front office about this with the 5th-year option, everything. And every team's a little different, but generally the timeline for rebuild is there's what you call year 0, which is you're bad. You're just bad. You're overhauling the roster.
2020.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Then you draft the quarterback you have year 1. The goal in year 1 is to figure out if the quarterback you've drafted is an NFL quarterback or not. To what extent, you don't have to know, but is this the guy we're going to move forward with? A lot of teams never even get past that.
Yeah.
But it felt like, year 2, and this is all assuming you check the box from the year before. Year 2 is, can you make the playoffs? Can you just get in the dance? Can you win enough games? Can you beat a couple of good teams where you're in there? Year 3, year 3 is then, can you be a contender? And you're building this up around the quarterback as you go.
Window.
No, so year 3, I think, is, can you contend?
Window.
All right, how I heard it, can you contend for your division? You should be a division contender. You should win a playoff game.
Okay.
Year 4 and 5, that's where you win the title.
Championship window.
That's championship window.
So maybe instead of championship window, I should say contending.
Contending window. Yeah. You're not like a championship favorite, but all right, championship contender.
Yeah.
They were ahead of schedule with Mac.
Yeah.
They were where you should be after year 2 and year 1. And then they went backwards. And so right now, based on that timeline, this year they should be a contender for the division and outside contender for the Super Bowl. Next year they should be a Super Bowl contender.
Yikes.
Do you see them getting there?
No.
And that's where I'm like, all right, you got to reset the process.
Got it. All right, Kevin is in Burlington, and then we're going to get up to 3 up, 3 down. What's up, Kevin?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I want to make the case that Belichick really had a well thought out plan for the offense, but it just wasn't able to implement it. Because I think the offensive problems really date back to when Brady and Josh were still here. If you remember in 2019, they started 8-0, but the offense really wasn't good, and it ultimately sank that team. And I think it's at that point that Belichick wanted to transition away from the Earhart-Perkins system because Brady was leaving and Scarnecchia was leaving. And I think he wanted a more consistent running game, and it was very difficult at that time to onboard new receivers because I think college was more spread RPO and NFL was running a lot of Shanahan. So if you remember in that offseason, they brought in Jed Fish as the QB coach. And Jed was he spent time with Mike Shanahan. He spent time with Sean McVay. That's when they brought in Cam Newton. But unfortunately, that was also the offseason of COVID. So I think that was really, really impacted, any kind of new philosophical install. And then Jed was hired away from the University of Arizona as the head coach before the season even ended. And then if you look, last year with Patricia, they were still trying to run, Shanahan zone schemes. So I think, ultimately it's this failure to transition to the new offensive system that's the root cause of the offensive problems. And the offenses of like Charlie Weiss, Josh Daniels, and Bill O'Brien are very difficult to run successfully in the modern NFL. I think until this transition happens, I'm worried that our offense will continue to crush this team regardless of the types of players that they have. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. Made a lot of really good points and things that we've touched on. We talked a lot about like the 2022 draft and how a lot of those players were kind of built more for a Shanahan offense, athletic guard, speed receiver, speed back, right? Like those are some of those picks that were made to suit that. My whole thing, and it's not to disagree with Kevin necessarily, because I agree with him that a big part of their offensive failures were the systemic changes that they made that have not taken hold, right?
Yeah.
That they've tried to make and it haven't worked. I've been saying a lot this week and in general, but this week especially, about how annoyed I am that they ditched the fullback and just don't have a fullback on the roster anymore. That to me, I think was a misstep. We talk about like all these types of moves. I agree. Now, the one point that I would push back a little bit on that being the entire reason, if you had good players, I don't think it would matter.
Right, and that to me, if you want to install this new offense, fine, go out and get players to run it. Yeah. And it just all comes back to that. They never invested in offense.
If you had real talent on offense, I don't care if you're running Earhart Perkins, West Coast, spread RPO. If you have, Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills offense, you're probably going to be a pretty good offense.
Right.
Like so I agree that maybe they miscalculated on a lot of different elements, trying to be more Shanahan like, and that's why this all came apart in a sense. But I still think that that's getting, even for me, getting a little too caught up in the X's and O's instead of the Jimmys and Joes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do 3 up, 3 down, and then we'll take a few more of these phone calls before we wrap. In classic blowout fashion, Alex, I did 2 up, 5 down because, you get blown out like that. You don't get more than 2. That's my rule. So let's start with the positives. I'll start here because I kind of mentioned him already. First stud of the game, first up of the game, Riley Reef. I thought Riley Reef was a lot better in this game than what they put out there at guard. One hurry allowed. It happened late with Bailey Zappi in the game in the fourth quarter. I thought he was really good in his reps. Run blocking, I think he shows some leverage, some toughness, some ability to move guys in the run game. Pass protection, he's been way, way, way better than anything they've thrown out there in pass protection at guard. Much better moving side to side, much better anchor. I'm intrigued. All right. This is a good player a good film, I should say, for Riley Reef, and maybe they have a good player.
I'll go to Mario Douglas. He got open on that one route, and he made a nice catch. And I mean, am I wrong?
No.
And he got hurt.
And he got hurt on the play.
Maybe he would have done more. That's not his fault.
No.
Maybe he would have done more. I don't know. He's an up.
I feel like 2 weeks in a row we had Demario Douglas is an up for one catch that he made in the game.
It's almost like he should be playing more. Well, I guess he couldn't have played more last week, but
number 2 up, Anthony Jennings. I thought Anthony Jennings was good in this game. 4 stops in the run game, set a good edge, had a hurry. Nobody had multiple hurries in this game because the Patriots had no pass rush. So the fact of the matter is Anthony Jennings is 1 hurry, tied for the team lead. So tied for the team lead in hurries, 4 stops against the run. Is Anthony Jennings a difference-making edge? No. Can he set the edge of the defense and play the run on first down? Yes. And for right now, that's going to be how they're going to have to survive without Judon, right? Everybody's going to have to have a role. Everybody's going to have to be hyper-specific to that role, and they're going to have to patch it together. So I have Anthony Jennings.
I'm doing this for I think it's the 3rd week in a row I'm picking this guy. At this point, I'm probably just doing it to annoy people more than anything else. Miles Bryant.
Oh, my God.
Had that big hit on Mike Thomas. He's stepping up, he's like their 3rd highest graded run defender right now on PFF.
Yeah.
He's had I think it's maybe says more about the defense than him, but he's been one of their best defensive players this year.
Not bad. Miles Bryant has turned into a player that fans poke at all the time.
Yeah.
I'll say this with all sincerity. If you're still picking on Miles Bryant and saying that Miles Bryant is bad, you're not watching the games.
Right.
You're not. Your priors have blinded you, and you're not watching the games this year. Is he prime Stephon Gilmore? Hell no. Is he a serviceable nickelback? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any more ups?
No.
Good. I'm glad we're on.
You're going to hate what my downs are, too.
Number 1 down.
Okay.
Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, number 1 down. I wanted to save this for 3 up, 3 down and talk about Mac a little bit here. Mac is a down. I think what the problem is with Mac, the 3 biggest things that I see that are wrong with Mac right now. Number 1, first and foremost, is he is Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there. He's seeing ghosts. Even when it's a clean pocket, it's not a clean pocket to Mac Jones right now. His footwork's all over the place. His eyes are out down on the rush. He is feeling pressure that doesn't always exist. And that's a big, big, big problem. He had a couple of plays in this game where if he had just hung in the pocket and stayed with the play, instead of being sped up and making a quick decision because of the panic meter with the pressure, he had some open reads in this game. But the ball was coming out so quickly or not at all because he was panicking because of the pressure. So that I don't know how you fix. When I say fix, I don't know how you fix that in season. He might be able to go to the offseason, take a step back from football, and reset and go 6 months without getting hit. And that might reset him mentally to the point where he can come in next season and not be sped up and panicked under pressure. But in season, I don't know how you necessarily fix that. And the other thing I mentioned the footwork, I mentioned the eyes, going down at the rush, not seeing the reads. I just really think that that's a broken quarterback. And I'm at the point now with Mac, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm at the point now with Mac that I don't know if you can put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I think that this is a guy that once you start to lose it in that respect and you start feeling pressure that doesn't actually exist and you start being unsettled with your footwork and like throwing with your feet parallel to the line of scrimmage and not stepping into throws, a couple examples like the Ty Montgomery interception. You can argue that a good receiver
It hit him right in the hands, Evan.
catches that ball and shields the safety and makes the catch. The ball is a lollipop. You got to step into the ball and throw it. If he steps into the ball and throws it with some velo instead of just arcing it up there to Ty Montgomery, the safety's not even a factor, right? Like if he steps and rips it, then Ty Montgomery catches it on the run and cuts in, in front of the face of the safety and never gets hit. But the ball took too long to get there, and it causes these types of interceptions. That's not because he was panicked in the pocket necessarily. It's because he doesn't have any confidence to step up in the pocket and step into a throw and let it rip. Those throws they need to have more mustard on them. They need to have more velocity on them. I'm not sure how you put Mac back together at this point.
All right, that leads perfectly into my first down.
Yeah.
The offense. Mac was panicked. He was rushing. They couldn't get anything blocked. They couldn't run the ball. Nobody was getting off open. Is there any part of that game you look at? I know you sort of liked what Riley Reif did, but as a whole, the game plan was bad. It was all bad. It's a bury the ball game for the offense. They weren't good enough. They just weren't good enough. I know people are going to say that this is me excusing Mac, especially because you just said Mac is your first down.
Yeah.
It's all of it. It's Mac's bad. The offense is bad. The pass catchers are bad. The run game's bad, and they all compound one another.
Yeah.
And it's not the kind of game where you can single one person out, I think, and say this person had a bad game. It was all bad.
Their offensive film is a disaster.
Yeah.
It is disgusting to watch. It is an absolute abject disaster to the point where I always watch the Patriots stuff, do Patriots stuff. Then I turn the page now. The Raiders played on Monday night, so that threw off my schedule a little bit.
Yeah, poor Evan.
Regardless, thank you. Thank you for feeling bad for me. Regardless, the Raiders and the Packers played that Monday night game. What was the final score? 17-13?
Something like 19-13 maybe?
17-13, something like that. So they both...
I know, because the Raiders haven't scored 20 once this year.
Neither team scored a lot of points. That's the point.
Right.
Their offensive film is 50 times better than what the Patriots put on film.
Yeah, they were just turning the ball over.
And they didn't score. But the fact of the matter is that it was synced up. It looked like an NFL offense, right? Like guys were running routes, blockers were blocking, quarterback was throwing. It was all on time. They're not very good right now, right? So they didn't hit on enough plays consistently to put up a lot of points. But if you put the Raiders offense that they're going up against this week and the Patriots offense side by side, the ugliness of the Patriots offensive film compared to the Raiders would be night and day to you. I mean, it is a disaster right now for the Patriots offense. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you.
Okay.
I had a few more specific guys though.
Okay.
Number 2. Antonio Mafi. So Antonio Mafi has tools. I'm excited about some of the things I've seen from Antonio Mafi. I think he's got NFL play strength. I think he's got NFL hand strength. I think he's got NFL leverage and balance and ability to block and posture and all that kind of stuff. Like I think he's got NFL tools. I put Antonio Mafi as a down, but I really mean Adrian Clem. Adrian Clem's got to start making his money on this team, in this organization. A guy like Antonio Mafi has one Achilles heel right now. He can't pick up a stunt. He can't pass off a stunt. It's not physical. It's not foot speed in this game as much as it is mental of not seeing it, right? He's not seeing the stunt coming. He's not mentally processing line movement up front. To me, that points more to coaching. This is a common problem from Antonio Mafi going back to the summer, which means that they've been coaching him up on it since the summer, and he's not getting better. And at some point in time, Adrian Clem's got to start making some people better on the offensive line. They have to start looking like a 5-man unit on the offensive line. And don't give me like they haven't played enough together. Like, I don't want to hear that. These guys have, like, him and Trent Brown have basically been out there since padded practices started. Okay? Like, we're not talking about him working next to a guy that hasn't played at all, like a Cole Strange or something like that. At some point in time, the line has to have an upward trajectory. There needs to be some development for the younger players on this line. Like, for example, City So. guard, tackle, whatever.
Yeah.
The fact that City So cannot even be active on game day when you're rolling Vidarian Lowe out there at right tackle is an indictment on the coach. Because he's a 4th-round pick. He has some tools. He's an athletic kid. He tested really, really well at the combine.
One of the best offensive lineman testers, yeah.
So he's got some raw ability. And the fact that he's not better than Vidarian Lowe, to me, points to coaching and development. So whether you want to put Mafi as a down or Clem as a down, it's one and the same to me. Antonio Mafi, Adrian Clem, that's my second down.
All right, mine is the defense. I think you see where I'm going with this.
What?
You look at the drives the Saints had early in the game. 8 plays, 62 yards, 416, 559, 236. It's hot knife through butter. And this is a quarterback that had a bad arm, bad throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
A team that struggled to move the ball the week. And look, maybe he's healthier, but a team that struggled to move the ball the week before. Honestly, you look at it, I know people think probably could have gotten worse. There were like 3 or 4 deep balls that either Carr didn't throw to Olave or he did and Olave just missed them. There was one touchdown that Olave, remember, he dropped it.
Yeah, it was like a Des Bryant situation.
As bad as it looked, they got bailed out a couple times by the Saints. Coverage didn't line up. Pass rush never got home. They weren't able to put any pressure on Carr, which they had to do to win this game. Alvin Kamara is making guys miss in the open field. That'll happen, but they just didn't seem like – they almost seemed caught off guard by the way Alvin Kamara was used in this game. Defense down.
Okay. So I have a position group on the defense in particular. The safeties.
Yeah, that's fair. If I had to pick one, yeah, that's fair.
All of them. So Kyle Duggar, where are you? MIA. Missing in action, Kyle Duggar. Made some plays in the flat, right? Made some tackles like Derek Carr throwing late to the flat and Kyle Duggar made some tackles. Cool. This goes back to something that we talked about a few minutes ago with the personnel. They always used to have a plan, right? Like Matt Light to Nate Solder. I'm just going to use that because it's an easy one to use. Matt Light to Nate Solder. They always used to have a plan. How many years, and it's the same thing with tackle, how many years, Alex, have we talked about free safeties, center fielders in the draft, saying at some point you are going to have to take Devin McCourty's successor.
Right.
At some point, you're going to have to get somebody in the building, and both of us were lockstep that we prefer Devin to actually school this kid.
Right.
Like, teach him. And they ignored it. They ignored it. And now they're in a position where they have box safeties that aren't deep middle safeties playing center field in a single high heavy defense. And Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips, those guys, it's not their fault. They're playing out of position. All of them. So Rashid Shaheed catches that big pass. Adrian Phillips is like the buzz defender. He lets him go by. He leaves Jabril Peppers on him on an island. Jabril Peppers can't pick him up because he's not Devin McCourty in his prime. Big play. Chris Olave's touchdown. Kyle Duggar. Where are you going, dude? There's a route on the right sideline. I think it's Michael Thomas. It's like a one-on-one, like fade back shoulder thing. And then there's one route in the middle of the field, and it's Chris Olave. And Kyle Duggar allows Derek Carr to eye manipulate him out of the passing window. Derek Carr looks right, so Kyle Duggar moves right, and then Derek Carr immediately comes back left and hits Chris Olave. There's nobody else in the area for Kyle Duggar to go to, right? Like there's no route that's threatening his zone for him to worry about. Their free safety play is abysmal. It's been terrible, and all of it goes back. Like, this is why I keep on going back to the head guy. All of this goes back to the fact that they never addressed a successor to Devin McCourty, and now they're in a position where they don't have one, and they're stuck. And it's been ugly at times at free safety.
It's something we talked about earlier in the show. How many guys have left? It's not just on offense. How many guys have left, and there was no plan to replace them? Yeah. Whether it's on offense, at tackle, at running back, at receiver, at safety, at linebacker. We've seen it a lot over the last few years, and free safety is certainly that list. I don't know if they thought maybe like Jabril Peppers could play it or something, or Jalen Mills could play it, but he's not even playing. Like, he's the most logical free safety on the roster, and he's not playing.
So Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar, if you want them to play center field and like a coverage rotation where you're running some sort of exotic and the center fielder drops out of center field and the robber drops back, like it's some sort of rotation post snap. Sure, fine. As like a stagnant single high safety like Devin used to do, can't happen. Like, you can't have that guy. And they had options. Like, there was options in the draft.
In the draft. Remember Taylor Rapp was here? Yeah. It's another guy who could do it.
All right. Who you got?
You want to guess?
Special teams.
Yes. Yeah, this is pretty clear.
This is just good.
No, I mean, they lost 34-0.
You're not wrong.
Chad Ryland. Look, I'm conflicted on Chad Ryland. We'll start with Chad Ryland. 7 of his 8 kicks have been from 48 or longer. He's 50% on all his kicks.
Yeah.
7 of his 8 have been from 48 or longer. Those are long kicks.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna hit 90% from 48 or longer. Nobody is. Justin Tucker doesn't. But you're here he was drafted because he has a big leg. He should be hitting some of these, and he's not. Now the snaps and holds haven't been great at times. There was another bad snap this week. This time on a punt.
Yeah, almost went out the back of the end zone.
Bryce Barringer, look, he got it going later in the game. He was good later in the game, but he shanked his first 2 punts. Those both led to short field for the Saints, and boom, just like that, you fall in the hole.
Yeah.
So that was concerning. And then you had Jabril Peppers try to like pick up a punt that was bouncing and fumbled it and didn't end up turning it over, but very much almost did. And Ty Montgomery ran 2 kicks out of the end zone that he didn't need to run out of the end zone. So the whole thing, it just didn't.
Other than that, how was the play, Mrs.?
Right, exactly. Well, no, I said Ryland, not Ryland. Barringer in the second half was good, but
stop it.
It's just like you're seeing on offense, where it just looks like guys are trying to do or being asked to do more than what's realistic because they're compensating for what's going on around them. We've talked about it a lot on offense. It exists a little bit on defense, maybe more now with some of the injuries. You're seeing that pop up on special teams as well.
All right. 2 more, quickly.
All right.
Vidarian Lowe, like, he's just going to live on the downs list, right? Like, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. And it's not his fault he's playing. So this kind of goes to my next one, but it's not his fault he's playing. They should have better options than Vidarian Lowe. Your 4th round pick should be a better option. La'el Collins should be a better option. Like, they should have a better option, but they don't.
Yeah.
And he gave up another 5 pressures in this game. He has given up the most pressures in the league amongst tackles, Alex. And he's only played 4 games. And he's still giving up the most.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's the worst right tackle. He's the worst tackle in football. Period. And he's this Patriots starting right tackle. So this goes to the last one. He's on the perpetual down list, it seems like, for right now. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick on the down list significantly. So he's down bad at this point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with this team. Most of them are personnel driven. We've talked a lot about all of that. Right tackle, free safety. Some of these spots that we're talking about go back to the whole thing of what was the plan? What was the succession plan? What was the thought process of those spots? It's now 2 years in a row, and this is why I lumped Vidarian Lowe in with Bill. It's now 2 years in a row that right tackle is the worst position on the Patriots roster. Worst position.
Yeah.
How do we not address this? How?
They didn't address it at all. Oh, sorry. They signed Riley Reef.
They signed Riley Reef and Calvin Anderson. That was addressing it.
They signed a career backup and a 34-year-old.
And they drafted a guard from Eastern Michigan and tried to make him into a right tackle.
The mystery box again. City So could be anything. He could even be a tackle.
And I got this question on Twitter, I think, of like, okay, well, out of McGlinchey, McGarry, Jawan Taylor, like who are those guys Orlando Brown, who are those guys have actually played well with their new teams? It's not the point, right? It's not the point. That's not how it works. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, this guy hasn't been good, so that why waste, like, why sign him, yada, yada. It would have been better than what you had, and B, you don't know what that player would look like in your system and in your team. Bill Belichick's, there's so many different things you can point to. You can point to in-game stuff. You can point to game plan stuff. You can point to personnel decisions. It's down bad. All of it. And at this point, I'm running out of things. And I can't believe I'm saying this about Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I'm running out of things to say that he helps this football team with. Like, if you can tell me one thing that you really think that he is helping them, contributing to winning on this football team, I'm all ears.
Miguel Benson, very well-timed tweet right now. How many right tackles do you think starting right tackles do you think Mac Jones has played with his time in the Patriots?
Oh God, 10?
Yes, actually.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Yeah.
You want to guess?
Oh boy, Isaiah Wynn.
Yep, that's one.
Yadni Kajust.
Yep.
Marcus Cannon.
Yep.
Calvin Anderson.
Yep.
Vidarian Lowe.
Yep.
Oh man, I don't know if Trent Brown.
Yep. You got one more from last year, and then it's all 21 guys.
Oh God. Who's the one from last year? It's like on the tip of my tongue. It's killing me. Who is it?
Connor McDermott.
I knew who it was. All right, who are the rest?
Justin Huron, Yadni Kajust, and Mike Onwenu.
I said Yadni Kajust.
Oh, did you? Who did I miss? Trent Brown. Oh, Yasir Durant.
Oh God. God, what a list.
It's in 3 years. Less than 3 years, really. 2 and change.
What a list.
2 and a quarter.
Oh God. All right.
That's a new right tackle every 3 games.
Yeah. All right. Who's your last down?
No, that was it.
You only have Oh yeah, you had 3.
Offense, defense, special. I don't know, coaching. I feel like I kind of wrapped that in with all of it.
How do you, like, genuine question, because I this is what we do.
Yeah.
And what's up? Like, what do you think is wrong with Chad Ryland? Like, do you think it's just simply that he's been asked to kick a lot of 48-plus yarders? I can't say 50-plus anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of little things, I think. You know, you had the bad snaps, and first of all, he didn't really get a chance to kick in the preseason. And
it's wild.
Right, which that helps. You had the bad snaps, the bad field in New York, and you wonder if it all just kind of compounds, and it's like, he kind of didn't kick really in games for a few months, and then his first game action was rough.
Yeah.
And now maybe he's in his head, and he hasn't exactly had a layup to get back going, right? It's not like he's gotten like a 35-year-old 5-yard chip shot to sort of just see one go through.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad kicker, but it's so mental at that position, and I wonder if that stuff's all just starting to layer up.
Oh God, just add it to the list of things that are not going well for this team. All right, let's get back to the phones. Dan is in New York. What's up, Dan?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I feel like this weekend's game is pretty big in the sense that if we lose, it's just going to be spiral effect. I mean, we've got Buffalo and Miami after that, and then and after that, Commanders and Colts is not a gimme. So going into the bye, potentially there's a good chance that we are 2-8, 1-9, 3-7. So at that point, do you guys think that we should embrace the full tank? Like, what's the status of the team then? Like, are they even fully committed, or very hypothetical, but I think it's a good chance happening.
Yeah.
Yes, if they're like 1-9, 1-10.
Thanks for the call, Dan. So embracing the tank, I don't really know. We've talked about this in terms of like tanking comes from the top down.
Right. It's a goofy thing you can do as fans, but the team will never.
Yeah.
Guys on the team aren't gonna. I'd say they're not gonna quit, but like guys are still playing for future jobs, future contracts.
Yeah.
Guys are coaching for future jobs.
So I think that the biggest thing, and I don't usually get into this to the psyche too much, but in these moments, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I'm interested in when we go to Vegas this weekend, back to Vegas again.
You get to go to Luxor.
Yay.
You get to see the beam.
God. Buy-in. Like, want to. Will. Who's pulling on the rope? Because you don't lose 76-3 in a 2-week span on talent alone. You don't lose like that on talent alone.
Right.
You lose on that because not everybody's is giving it 110%. So this is a really big test in my mind because you're going to Vegas. You're going on a 6-hour flight across the country. You're leaving a day earlier than normal because of the long flight. So this is a little bit of like a weekend, right? It's a little bit of a trip. Like we're not just going for 24 hours and coming home. Who wants to play on Sunday? And is there enough guys in that locker room right now that want to play on Sunday and want to fight for the season and want to try to pull out of this where they have that kind of effort, or do they lay another egg? Because if they lay another egg, then I'm starting to get with you on the fact that in-season firing is on the table. if they show some fight and they show, God forbid, they win, like, you know, I think that's then that's showing you something, right?
Yeah.
But this is, to me, before we get to schemes, and we're going to do key matchups here in a second, before we get to matchups and X's and O's and game plans and things like that against the Raiders, the biggest thing is do they even want to freaking be there or not?
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. I would just, to the second part of that question, like, what do you look for if it gets to that point, if it does?
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about it earlier, like, how do the kids look? The guys who you know are going to be here if they reset it. Keon White, Marte Mapu, Tyquan Thornton, Demario Douglas, Kayshawn Booty, the rookie lineman, maybe Andrew Stuber gets some run. Like, these are the Malik Cunningham. These you're just kind of looking to see, all right, are any of these guys part of the plan moving forward, or like, can any of them help you build this thing back up, or where do you really need to go and address?
Yeah. All right. Gene is in South Carolina. What's up, Gene?
Hey, you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. We could.
Oh.
Speakerphone. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So, I know I'm just a fan, but it's just an idea for you guys. I was curious what you guys thought. So I know they talk about people not having, or the players not having any confidence in Mac. So why couldn't we, Devontae Parker, he's missed a couple of contested baskets that I think he could have caught, and I just didn't think he tried. He was better last year. And then Juju, I mean, obviously it's just miscommunication. We can go on. I've listened to you guys talk about it all the time. The tight ends work with him. Why not just bring Cunningham up and use Booty and use Douglas when he's not hurt, and just go with these younger receivers and try to build something on that with Mac? It seems like Mac has a better relationship with the younger receivers anyway.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the call, Gene.
It's an interesting theory.
I don't know about the younger receivers versus older receivers thing. I will tell you this. If your idea of bringing Malik Cunningham up is to put in a Taysom Hill package and just give you that option on offense to maybe run him a little bit like that, fine. I have no interest in Malik Cunningham playing receiver in the game. None. If you want him to play Wildcat quarterback and add that element because you can't move the ball anyway, so you might as well try it, I can hear that. But if you're asking me to play Malik Cunningham at wide receiver, I'm out. That's where I'm at.
All right.
Do you disagree?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea, like, long term of him being a wide receiver, but I just, from what we saw in the summer, he's not close enough yet to play that position in an NFL game.
Not even close. All right, let's get into the Raiders a little bit. This Raiders game, I think, is in a lot of ways like the Saints, in that, and I feel like this is true almost every week, not to pick but on a scab here, but if you were to rank the rosters,
yeah,
the Raiders have a better roster.
Yes,
they have better. They have a better top of the roster than the Patriots. The Patriots don't have a Max Crosby. Well,
they do, but he's hurt.
The Patriots don't have a Devontae Adams.
Correct.
I don't think they have a Josh Jacobs.
Nope.
So
they don't have Jacoby Myers.
And they don't have Jacoby Myers. So they don't. The Raiders have better top end talent than you do.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it makes it tough for me to pick the Patriots in this game, because I think pretty much everything else is equal, but they have a few more game changers than you do, and that's what's going to tilt the scales to the Raiders. With that being said, though, I do think that this is a winnable game. It comes back to what I said earlier about, do they want to win? Do they even want to be there?
Right.
That's going to be a factor. I think in general with the Raiders, there's two things that really stand out to me. One, obviously, Max Crosby is one of the best players in the league.
Yes.
His film is just ridiculous. Like, the guy combines the relentless motor with skill and block anticipation and the ability to, against the run and the pass. Like, I think that's what makes him so rare, is that there's a lot of guys that can rush the passer in the NFL. A lot. There's not a lot of guys that can play the run as well as Max Crosby can. He does both of them at an elite level. He completely ruined the game for the Green Bay Packers on Monday night.
I think he did it for the Steelers, too, the other week.
Yeah, completely took the game over. So he can do that against this Patriots team. He certainly can against this offensive line. So that's number one. And number two to me is that I think that if you get too caught up in all the weapons that the Raiders have, you are going to get overwhelmed by trying to plug holes defensively. It's Adams is tough, right? Like Adams is the best receiver in football, maybe. He's top 5, certainly. Looks a little compromised to me with that shoulder. Like I didn't think he looked like he was as good on Monday.
But you still have to respect him.
100%.
And that's where other guys get open off of that.
So then you have that, and then you have the run game, which I've always touted McDaniels. I still, even though their numbers and their production isn't quite as good as last year in the run game, I still think that they design it really well, and Josh Jacobs is a good runner. So you have the run game, and then you also have their slots, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, those guys. So I think if you try to play, the game plan is we're going to tilt coverage to Adams, and we're going to do this, and we're going to stop the run with 7 in the box, and I think that you're going to get overwhelmed by trying to plug holes. The one thing that you can do, to use a Star Wars reference, because I'm a big Star Wars guy, the spot in the Death Star that you can shoot at.
Well, that's appropriate because as we called it, their stadium's the Death Star, right? There you go.
Maybe Matt can help me. What's it called? Like the thing that they shoot in?
Ventilation shaft.
What's that?
Ventilation shaft.
Yeah. The ventilation shaft of the Raiders' Death Star is the quarterback, is Jimmy. Jimmy Garoppolo.
I love this take.
Jimmy Garoppolo is beatable, right? Like you can beat.
No,
Jimmy.
but Evan, he's a winner. Have you seen his record?
So Jimmy, the game plan against Jimmy is very, very cut and dry, right? Like his splits, whether you want to watch the film or you want to look at the numbers, his splits tell the story. Pressure, no pressure, in breakers, all other routes. If you take away the middle of the field and you pressure the quarterback, he will self-destruct.
Yep.
Point blank. So in my mind, in this game, it's all about throwing off Jimmy. Because if you just let him sit back there and you let him throw his digs and his slants and his crossing routes and things like that, their weapons are going to move the ball. Their weapons are good. They're going to move the ball. If you get Jimmy to throw up all over himself, then you have a chance. So if I'm the Patriots, I'm game planning Jimmy. I'm pressuring the quarterback.
This is basically what they did last year.
Yeah, I'm packing the box in the middle of the field, right? Because that kills 2 birds with one stone, to stop the run, and I'm going to take away the middle of the field, and I'm going to make Jimmy Garoppolo beat me down the field and outside the numbers. Like that's where I'm going to make him beat me, and if he does, you tip your cap, and that unfortunately you lost, right? But that's the way that the cookie crumbles. That's where I'm at with this Raiders game. I think it's winnable. I'm not picking the Patriots because I picked the Patriots the last 2 weeks for some God only knows what reason, and they embarrassed me both times. So I'm not taking the Patriots, but if I'm the Patriots in this game, I worry about how can I might not be able to stop Devontae Adams, right? Like I don't have Christian Gonzalez. I don't have a Jarrell Revis, Stephon Gilmore to go out there and stop Devontae Adams. But if the guy who's throwing the ball to Devontae Adams can't get him the ball, then I'm in good shape.
Yeah, isn't the game plan the same against the Patriots?
Yeah.
Right, and that's where, all right, so you got to pressure the quarterback. You got to take away the number one receiver. You got to take away the middle of the field. Patriots might be better equipped to take away the middle of the field with their safeties, but you're talking about Max Crosby and Marcus Peters versus Josh Uche and J.C. Jackson, essentially.
Devontae Adams, you mean?
No. I'm saying the two guys, if both defenses are going to go in with the same thing, right? It's who's going to execute their assignments at a higher level. Is it Max Crosby and Marcus Peters, or is it Josh Uche and J.C. Jackson?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, J.C. Jackson, Marcus Peters might be kind of close.
Interchangeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think Max Crosby takes this game over. I just don't see how he doesn't.
Okay, so I'm with you. I think that's more than fair. The other kind of big picture matchup thing before we get into the little matchups.
Yeah.
Big picture matchup thing. It's funny. I think Fred put it the other day that normally we talk about like two really good teams and like it's like strength on strength, right? Like it's like great offense against great offense or great defense against great defense. This is a weakness on weakness.
Okay.
So this is basically a big part of this game to me, and who might win this game is who stinks less in this category? The Raiders in man coverage or the Patriots against man coverage? Who doesn't screw the pooch, right? Because the Raiders right now, dead last in the league in most statistics in man coverage as a defense, man-to-man defense. They stink. They're giving up over 9 yards per pass attempt in man this season. It's by far the most in the league. The Patriots are by far the worst man coverage offense in the league. They can't win against man coverage. So who makes more plays? The Raiders defensive backs or the Patriots receivers against man coverage?
Well, that kind of goes into mine where I'm curious what it looks like without Juju and Demario Douglas, right?
Yeah.
Juju's a 58% usage rate guy. Douglas is 25, but Douglas is like 10% of all their receiving yards this year and just 25% of the snaps. Is it Tyquan? Is it Kayshon Boutte? Are you going to get more Jalen Reagor? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, and Evan, this is probably going to annoy you, but I wonder if we just get a ton of 12. If we just get a ton of 12 personnel with Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker, and they're just putting Pharaoh Brown in the game a lot to counter Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Instead of having that third receiver on the field with guys banged up. I would like to see Kayshon Boutte. I think you probably should see Tyquan Thornton a good amount, especially without Douglas because he gives you that speed element. There'll be a little bit of all of that, but I would not be surprised if we see a ton of 12 in this game, essentially just with a 6 offensive tackle in Pharaoh Brown.
I like that. I think that that's a big part of this game. Like when you talk about what are the scheme tweaks that they can make, max protect, keep everybody in, right? Like just seven guys in the protection, 8 guys in the protection, whatever you want to call that with the running back. 7-man protect, 8-man protect, play action, 2-man route combinations. We talked about this a little bit last year, a lot of it, I should say, with Zappy, right? Like not only does it protect the quarterback, but it also simplifies the read for Mac. He's basically reading one route.
Right.
So, and really more in reality, he's really reading one player, and that's the deep safety. If the deep safety plays the post, he's throwing the crosser. If the deep safety jumps the crosser, he's throwing the post. Like it's really as simple as football gets for a quarterback. So I would really think that they are going to do a lot of that this week. Whether it's true, I don't think they've run a single snap in true 6-0 line yet.
I don't think so.
Whether it's true 6-0 line or it's 12 personnel and both tight ends stay in and block, regardless, that needs to be a part of this game plan moving forward.
Yeah,
I think in general.
Well, I just think you have the perfect opportunity to do it this week with how banged up they are at receiver.
Yeah. All right. Quickly, key matchups. We kind of mentioned this one already. Vidarian Lowe versus Max Crosby.
Oh, yeah. I thought we were already doing this. Sorry. That was one of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is. Vidarian Lowe, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but Vidarian Lowe against Max Crosby. This is as big of a mismatch as Micah Parsons was. Like, this is a gigantic, epic mismatch. I don't really know what the Patriots do other than try to throw waves of bodies at Max Crosby.
Again, 12 personnel, Pharaoh Brown.
Yeah, it's got to be like Pharaoh Brown double teams, and if they're passing, then like the back like goes over there to Crosby's side too, and like if he gets through the 2 guys on the double team, then he's got to at least run over a speed bump on the way to the quarterback, right? Like you just have to throw waves and waves and waves of bodies at Max Crosby. And I mentioned this when they played Parsons. Like when it's your turn to chip him, like freaking like lay into him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like actually hit him. You got to make him feel some of that, and you got to maybe even most importantly, like got to make him start looking for it, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna get off the ball. Oh, wait, is it coming? Is it not? Right? And then that split second of indecisiveness that buys you time too. So you got to throw waves of bodies at him. You can't leave Vidarian Lowe one-on-one against him at all, really.
Right.
In this game, this is a tough one.
Yeah, that's my top one too. I mean, they got to figure out a way. Again, I think it's Pharaoh Brown probably helps. I think shifting coverage to the right probably helps, but or blocking.
Yeah,
but then you need Trent Brown winning one-on-one. You need whoever's at left guard winning one-on-one. That creates its own issues within itself.
That's why I probably would expect Riley Reif to play left guard because the left side's probably going to be one-on-one.
Yeah,
and so he's probably your best bet leaving him one-on-one at this point. So I could see that. All right. Number 2 here. We haven't talked a ton about Jacoby. Main reason is because like I don't want to be taking any victory laps because I was dead wrong about this. So I'm not gonna like rag on them as like everybody else is about Jacoby. And like really quickly, like not pointing fingers at anybody in particular, but if you're like doing the Jacoby victory lap, like can we go back to your tweets in March and your articles in March? Like what were you saying about the move back then? Because I'm not going, and I'm trying not to. I was dead wrong about this too. So if you're going to play revisionist history and now all of a sudden fast forward to now and you're going to write your articles of the Patriots really screwed this one up, like, well, did you too?
Right.
Like you probably did. Jacoby versus John Jones, I think, is probably going to be the matchup most of the time. I would expect JC to stay on the perimeter with Davante Adams. This one's tough. I think John Jones will be fine in coverage on Jacoby. Jacoby obviously is a great route runner, good hands. We know Jacoby. The one thing that I would be worried about in this game, what are the odds Josh lets him throw a pass?
Ooh.
I think it's pretty high.
Yeah.
It depends on what the score is. Like if it's a close game, I don't know with McDaniels. McDaniels trick plays all the time. Regardless.
That's on the table whenever. That's on the table whenever. It's going to be just as an observer of the game. It's going to be fun to watch Jacoby Myers and Jonathan Jones, two good players, two players who know each other very well, going head to head. I think that'll be enjoyable to watch. And this is a big game for Jacoby. You don't think there's a little extra juice in this for him? You're kidding yourself. I am interested to see what he's going to do.
Me as well. It's going to be an interesting matchup. All right, last one here. Whether it's Colton Miller on the left side, Miller will be there at left tackle. Their right tackle situation, I think Illuminor has started over there most of the time, but he's hurt, and then Munford's the backup. Either way, whoever's at right tackle, because Colton Miller is a pretty solid player. I think you can rush on Colton Miller too, but Josh Uche. Josh Uche's got to get after the quarterback a little bit. Like last week, one hurry, really wasn't very impactful in that game. Didn't play a ton, but wasn't very impactful. Needs to be better than that without Judon. They need second half of last year Josh Uche, right? Like that's the player that they need to see. I know he's been banged up, and that could be a factor, but if he plays a backup right tackle, even if he plays a Illuminor, who I don't really think very highly of, he should be able to win that matchup. And if they're going to get any sort of pass rush going, it needs to come through Josh Uche.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We've talked about this for a few weeks now that with Matthew Judon out, we're going to see, right? He had Uche had that great end to the season last year.
Yeah.
And was it, he finally figured it out, or was it just teams were so over compensating for what Judon was doing that he kind of got cut loose? Now we can see what he does as a number one pass rusher.
Yeah. You got anything else?
Yeah, Bill versus Josh. Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, just that element of it. And it goes to your thing about the trick plays. And, on both sides, they're going to have something special in store. I thought Josh outcoached Bill last year, or Josh's staff outcoached Bill's staff last year. And, it's a big spot for Bill Belichick, bigger than anybody. I would say bigger than Mac Jones. This is a big spot for Bill Belichick. We said last week was a big spot. Coming off the worst loss of his career, he did not respond. Does he respond this week?
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I actually have, I love Josh.
Yeah.
And I've actually enjoyed watching the evolution of his offense in Vegas. Watch a lot of Vegas because they've played him twice. And, the thing is with him, I've kind of always believed that McDaniels does McDaniels, and it's on the players to adapt and fit the system. And I think that's been pretty true in Vegas at quarterback, right? Which is, I think, a big reason why Derek Carr is not there anymore.
Right.
But in terms
and Jimmy Garoppolo is.
Yeah, but in terms of how he's used the personnel, I think it has evolved quite a bit. Like, because he didn't have a Davante Adams in New England.
Right.
So to find ways to get Davante Adams open, you're not going to run Davante Adams like you used Julian Edelman, right? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So I think that they have adapted quite a bit in terms of how they attack down the field, and they're still a middle of the field offense. They're still a gap run team. There's a little bit more Shanahan in there now because of Jimmy, I think, like a little bit more bootlegs and things like that, and like just a little less fullback. Not like they haven't ditched it, right?
Jakob Johnson's still out there.
Yeah, 17%. Last year they were at 21%, so it's not a huge difference.
Well, they've also been behind more this year.
Yeah, and but against the Packers, that stood out to me a little bit was that Jakob Johnson's snaps were really just like short yardage and red zone. When they were in between the 20s, they ran a lot of 12, and they have They have Mayer, obviously,
Yeah.
at tight end, and they have a Hooper, too. So they have 2 tight ends that I think are capable. And they've ran it a little bit differently, not a ton differently, but a little bit differently, just because of the personnel. So he's adjusted. They're trying to get the run game going, just like the Patriots. Josh Jacobs has not been as good.
No.
And that's, I think, a big reason why, too, why they've changed some of the blocking schemes and some of the things up front. But that's the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders, this is an interesting game. It's the Raiders are the Raiders. The Patriots are going to know them well. They're going to know Josh well. They're going to know Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, well. This comes down to me again, not to be a broken record, but this comes down to effort. Like, this comes down to want to. Do the Patriots want to play hard? Do they want to be there? Do they want to get a win? And the Raiders, coming off that Packers win, they're still in it. I think, they're 2-3? They're still in it. The Patriots, maybe not.
Yeah.
I think that's what we got. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap it up, and Alex and I will be back next week to preview the Buffalo Bills. And
the Bills or the Dolphins?
Bills.
Is it Bills first? Okay.
Bills first. The Buffalo Bills recap this game against the Raiders. Let's just hope that the Patriots, is it fair to say competitive against the Bills is like a win in this situation?
Let's see what happens this week.
Yeah. Let's see what happens this week. Oh, boy. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.